Welcome to FL Studio 12. In this tutorial, we'll cover the main new features. Let's start with those added to the FL Studio 12 editions. Fruity Edition gains automation clips. Previously, automation was handled by the event editor. Producer Edition gains Citrus, an FM additive synth, and Maximus, a multiband compressor. Finally, Signature Bundle gets all those plugins, plus Newtone for pitch editing and stretching, Pitcher, a real-time pitch correction plugin, Grosbeat, time and level manipulation, and Harmless, an additive subtractive synth, the little sister of Harmor. And better news, these changes are retrospective, so customers with lifetime free updates get them too. Just install a new reg code from your ImageLine account. Great. The headline feature for FL Studio 12 is the Vectorial user interface. That means it's rescalable. Some parts, like the mixer, can be rescaled in real time. Others, such as the main toolbar and windows, require a program restart. To change the scaling, open the General setting and note the main GUI scaling. I'll set it to 125% for the rest of this overview. I'll also set the cursor to 125%. Then, let's restart FL Studio. Okay, so back to the options, General Settings. First up, the calibration control here to the right doesn't change the GUI. It's a scaling factor for touch and related object handles and hotspots. From Windows 8.1 onward, this should be auto-detected. It's something you set once correctly and forget. As we saw before, there are some advanced scaling options below. I just wanted to note that some of your favourite options may be hiding under these drop-down panels. So look for them if you can't find a setting you'd expect from a pop-up panel. Before we leave the general settings, I'll just point your attention to some personal preferences I usually set and why. The click and hold and special gesture functions. Click and hold will do things like copy a note or clip, like here in the playlist. It's great for touch devices, but often catches me out when I'm working with a mouse, so it's off on my desktop system. Auto zoom in the piano roll. This feature will scale piano roll contents depending on the window size, but it can fight you when you've carefully set your vertical zoom and then touch the piano roll window, causing some small annoyance. So, with this off, your piano roll zoom will remain unmolested. Okay, let's have a look at the main user interface. Magnetic windows. No, they don't add tape-style saturation to your mixes. It's about snapping window components together. Just make sure they're not detached. When locked, you can move the desktop about and everything will stay in its relative place. Some windows, like the mixer, will dynamically show more or less features depending on the size. If they don't appear, there is a Show Properties switch here. Related, there's also a Show Track Inspector switch. At some point you'll probably be scratching your head and wondering where the Track Inspector went. Something not so new but often overlooked, you can double-click window headers to maximize the window. Double-click again to return to the previous size. The playlist and piano roll can do the same. The step sequencer channel window has been renamed Channel Rack. The pattern menu that used to be around here is now up on the menu bar, so features like Split by Channel are up here. Conversely, the Channels menu that was on the toolbar is now moved down to the channel rack. Okay, so how do you add your plugins now? Most obvious is the Add New Channel Plus button. By the way, the favourites that show here are managed by the plugin database. The first two folders here are your effects and generators or instruments favourites. I've linked 2 tutorials in the video information on managing your VST plugins. But for now, let's do a quick review. So we have the Add Plus button, the Channel Rack menu. For the Mixer FX, you can left-click the drop-down menu as before. There's now a New Plugin Picker button. You can middle-click on the desktop or press the F8 key. If you right-click the plus button, that will open the picker to the Generators category. Or if you right-click the Mixer FX slot menu, it will open the picker to the Effects category and subcategories if you have them. There's also an Add menu where you can add both generators and effects, and open the plugin picker too. So no excuse for failing to find something somewhere to add your plugins. Let's have a closer look at the toolbar. First up, we have a new shortcut panel, number 3. Nice for tutorials, it shows the control keys I'm using, but the main purpose is for use with touch screens. Somewhat more exciting is that you can now customize the buttons. Just right-click the handle at the front of the panel and choose from the list. So, for example, on our social media I've seen people wondering where the render button went. Well, here it is. With regard to the pattern versus playlist mode switch, the icon is here. Notice placing the clip auto-deselected pattern mode. The pattern selector is still here and enhanced with some new features. Click the plus button to create a new, next empty, pattern. You can pre-select names too. The pattern menu is also accessible from here if you are too lazy to reach over to the pattern menu in the main toolbar. Some panels are now stretchable, like the monitor panel. To orient yourself with the rest of the controls, I encourage you to press the F1 button and open the Excellent manual. By the way, don't forget to click the online panel and keep in touch with the news. As you can see here, we're announcing the FL Studio 12 release, and you don't want to miss stuff like that. Let's have a look at the plugin wrapper and channel settings. The channel settings window is now integrated in the wrapper. Use the cog icon here to open the panel. VST plugins have wrapper settings here, and the remainder of the channel settings are here under the spanner. The channel routing selector is on the right. A nice new feature is that you can click the track label below the selector and FL Studio will auto-route it to the next unused mixer track with auto-naming, just like when you drop a plugin directly on the mixer track. So how do you open two or more plugins at once now the channel settings are integrated? I'll just load some plugins to demonstrate. So I just clicked two channel buttons and they both stayed open. That's because I have General Settings, Auto Select Linked Modules off. With it on, opening one channel will close another. If you're not using that, then select the channel you want to open first with the channel selector and then click the channel button. You can also hold the Alt button and click the channel buttons as well. Effects will always stay open together just by clicking their channel slots in the mixer. So let's have a look at the mixer. As I mentioned, depending on the vertical height, some controls are dynamically shown. If you have a tall mixer and controls are still missing, click the Properties switch here. If the track inspector is missing, it's under this switch here. Let's go down a track and have a look at the controls. At the top is the name area and peak meter. You can roll your mouse wheel on this area to scroll tracks. Then the solo mute switch. The pan control. Right-click and reset to return to the default, or middle-click, just as I did on the fader. Below that is a polarity or phase switch. Then left-right channel swap, stereo separation, merged to the right, separated to the left. This valve icon is a switch to mute all effects in the track. As you can see, the master fruity limiter is there, so the switch is active. Next, plug-in delay compensation. The detailed controls are on the track inspector, then a record arm switch, and finally the track routing. I'll swap to a wide mode so it's easier to see. To route a track, select the source track and then click on these up arrows. Ooh, some nice oxygen-free monocrystal patch cables there. And you can tweak the audio level send control here. Right-clicking on the send switch gives you options like route or sidechain to this track only. Remember that a sidechain is just a send with the audio send turned down. If the sight of cables gives you cold sweats and the walls start to move in on you and you can't breathe, that's a phobia. And we have a solution for you. And now routing works as before. To deselect links, click the smaller arrow above the send knob. As we can now select multiple tracks, we have many additional routing options. For example, hold Ctrl plus Shift and then click a track, click another, or click and drag, which is also how you gang faders. When multiple routing, the first track you click is important. It's referred to as this track in the subsequent pop-up menus. Notice the first track, this track, is slightly lighter than the rest. Or you can right-click any other member of the selection afterward to make it this track. I'll right-click it and choose Track Routing, route selected to this track only. And the new cables make it easy to see that all are indeed routed to that track. An example use would be a drum submix group. I'll select the channels to use, right-click a destination track from the channel routing, route selected channels starting from this track, and there they are. I'll use Insert 20 for a submix. Right-click, rename and recolor, and we get an auto name, icon and color. You can also click here and customize the icon. Next, I'll route all the other tracks to my submix. Right-click a destination track from the channel routing, route selected to this track only, and I have a submix. I'll dock my submix track to the left. Group these and call it drums. Select an icon and a color. And we get track dividers separating these from the rest. Now, as I scroll around, the percussion submix stays visible on the left dock. Useful. To remove separators, which are just visual aids, right-click the track and deselect it from the menu. You can also redock a group of tracks. Just make a multiple selection, and in this case, I'll select a dock to the middle. Now there's nothing in the right dock. There's my send tracks, which by the way are no longer hard-coded as sends. You can use them as normal insert tracks if you like. Finally, for the mixer, let's have a look at the special extra large view. Now we can see per track effects in an overview. If the labels are too small, closing the track inspector will increase the font size. To open plugins, just left-click on the list. To reorder, right-click and use the menu. Here I'm using the D shortcut after right-clicking the effect. The blue effects here relate to a patcher instance, but you can recolor any by using the Rename Recolor menu that's available from the right-click Overview menu. To remove empty FX slots, you can choose View from the Mixer menu and then Compact Plugin List. You can right-click plugins to replace them or load presets if available. This right-click menu is basically the plugin wrapper menu. Remember, you can double-click the Mixer toolbar to maximize it, and you're ready to immerse yourself in the mixer. Great for extended mixing and mastering sessions. Let's have a look at the playlist. You can now load multiple stems by dragging and dropping from a Windows File Explorer onto the playlist. Open a Windows File Explorer by right-clicking on the FL Studio browser folder name and selecting Open. Cool. I'll just route those to mixer tracks by selecting all the channel selectors, and then right-click the mixer track and select Route Selected Channels starting from this track. Excellent. Another useful feature is the option for clip labels to scroll with the playlist. plugin updates. A number of plugins have been updated, such as 3 Oscillator and the Envelope Controller. We'll have some more tutorials on that later. If you open the manual and go to the What's New section, you can browse the updated plugins and overall new features. Finally, let's have a look at the step sequencer and piano roll. First up, swing is now per channel. Open the miscellaneous channel settings, and this swing knob acts as a multiplier for the selected channel only. Another change affects how the step sequencer and piano roll now interact. They now share data all the time. To edit the velocity and other graph editor-based data, now use the piano roll here, as you would with notes, note pan, etc. If you delete steps, you will see these muted notes. They're kept to allow you to continue experimenting with steps and not lose the event editor data. So if you open a piano roll and see leftover muted notes, just delete them and carry on. To extend the number of steps in a pattern, grab and drag the edge of the step sequencer. Clicking the grey area will activate additional groups of steps, but that raises a question about loop length. The piano roll now supports time markers, Ctrl-T shortcut. Right-click to add one, and right-click again to select visual length. The time marker will now determine the loop length of the pattern. The piano roll now allows editing of ghost notes. In this sequence I have 3 active channels. To activate, select the piano roll menu, Helpers, Editable Ghost Notes, and then Ghost Channels. So now we can not only see other channels in the pattern, but edit them directly. Double right-click to swap to the channel. By the way, the channel selector shows all the channels in the project, and helpfully, the active channels in the pattern have ticks next to them for easy selection. And with that, I'll leave you to download and enjoy FL Studio 12.